In this video, I'm going to talk about structural warranties. If you're new to development, you may not have come across this. It's important that you know about it because it can be very expensive, as I've learned to my detriment, and as have others, that it's very costly. So watch the video to find out how structural warranties work and to how to make sure you pay the lowest premiums. Structural warranties are an interesting animal because a lot of people who aren't used to developments don't actually know that they have to have structural warranties. So they end up doing the work and then they're trying to obtain funding like a mortgage or a remortgage, depending on how they financed at the start, and the lender says, can we have structural warranties? And then they go and try and get the warranties. But the bad news is, if you try and get the warranties at the end of the work, it's gonna cost you a lot more money, nearly twice as much as it would have done had you instructed a structural warranty company or insurer at the start of the project. And that's because obviously they can't see all the work, therefore in their mind they think there's a higher risk because they don't know what's been done, and they'll charge you more for the insurance. So in very simple terms, structural warranties are for new builds and commercial conversions, and they are there for structural defects, and they cover a period of 10 years. Now some insurers will want you to give them a 2-year personal guarantee, for the first 2 years personal guarantee, and then the next 8 no personal guarantee. You need to do the research, ask around, get some prices. I use a broker, and they get me prices from the market and say, here you go, here's the terms and conditions and the prices and everything else, and then I can compare and contrast. Simple advice to you is, if you can avoid giving personal guarantees, do so, because I don't think it's ever a good idea to give a personal guarantee unless it can't be helped. If you do it at the start, because I know people say, oh well, what's the average cost? Well, there is no such thing as average cost, but if you do it at the start, let's say on a new build, and let's say 3-bedroom houses, you're looking at between £1,200 to say £2,000 per property, there or thereabouts. If you do it at the end, you're looking at nearly double that, so £2,500 all the way up to nearly £4,000 per property. Because at the start, they can then see the work that's going on. They'll come out and get their engineer to review the work at certain stages. They know everything's being done properly. That gives them confidence. Therefore, the insurance premium is lower. At the end, because they can't see everything, they'll just whack you with a higher price. Now, something that you can, if you have done, is if you weren't aware of structural warranties, but you had a structural engineer come out at different stages and they've prepared reports for you and they've got photographs, that's going to help lighten the blow for you and reduce the premium. But the best thing to do is, at the start, get the quote and get them on board as soon as possible. The important thing to share with you is, structural warranties aren't compulsory, but they become compulsory and important when lenders insist that you got to have them. So if you've got a cash property and you then spend further cash on developing it or redeveloping it, and then you rent it out and you have no funding, there's no requirement for you to have structural warranties. But as soon as you go to a funder, they'll insist on that as one of their terms and conditions of lending. So when they come out to do site inspections, their criteria for when they review the work is usually more stringent and technical than building control. So they are quite thorough. They're going to make sure you do a good job, and rightly so, by the way, because A, you should be doing a good job, and B, for them to cover you for the risk, they need to make sure everything's proper and solid. Sometimes these warranties stop you changing ownership within 2 years, so you can't transfer it to somebody else. That can be problematic. For example, if somebody dies and they want to transfer the properties, or if you have a, let's say, a partnership business and you're looking to incorporate, that can cause an issue. With the incorporation route, what I've found for myself and my clients when we've done it, that's not been too much of an issue. They're okay with that because they understand it. But if you're looking to transfer otherwise, that can cause problems. So if you're looking to transfer the property to your son, daughter, or husband, wife, then make sure that you tell the warranty provider at the start. Of course, if you're selling the properties, that's absolutely fine, because you don't need to transfer certificates, all you're doing is the buyer, let's say the end buyer, their solicitor will ask you for a copy of the warranties. You just show that to them for that particular house number, plot number, flat number, apartment, whatever it is, and they'll say, yep, that's fine, it's got structural warranties, that they're fine. They don't want the actual document transferred to their name. But if you give the property to somebody else and they want the property transferred to them, especially if they're getting a mortgage, then that might be problematic for you. So most warranties don't cover the small things, like if you've got a creaking floor, that's not going to be covered. If you want to cover those types of things, then the policy becomes more expensive, and usually it's not worth covering. And in my experience of the people that I've spoken to, there's not that many claims on a structural building. Sometimes it does go wrong, and like anything in life, when it goes wrong, it goes horribly wrong, but usually there's not that much of an issue. And usually the issue might appear in the first 2 years. I mean, there'll be a bit of movement, but some cracks in the walls, possibly in the ceilings, that type of stuff, but you can kind of fix that yourself to some extent. It's easy enough rather than doing a claim. It's really to protect the big stuff, because if that goes wrong, it's going to cost you a lot of money, and that's where structural warranties come into place. I hope you found this video on structural warranties useful, because going forward it's something that you need, especially if you're doing commercial conversions or new builds, and hopefully you'll be able to save some premiums. If you don't know who to go to, drop me an email, contact me, and I'll happily share my broker and other contact details with you. Any questions, post them below, happily answer them. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe so you get updated content. And if you have any advice, suggestions, comments on videos or content, post it below and I'll happily address it for you.